Hi, everybody. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the 9 environments. These are the situations, circumstances, and categories of life that surround all of us. And part of leaning in and experiencing new things and moving blocks out of your way is recognizing how these environments affect you. And like we've said before, our human nature is to avoid conflict and pain. And sometimes that can get in the way of success and progress in other areas. So we're going to take a minute to explain what the 9 environments are. Leaning into any new situation requires confidence, self-esteem, and underlying support structure. And these 9 environments are your underlying support. This makes sense. Whether you're in a community, whether you're in a workspace, whether you're an entrepreneur, wearing many hats, this applies to everyone. So first is your body. And we can all think of what happens when we ignore our body, whether it's from a health perspective, a physical grooming, a hygiene, a primary source of energy, just the overall awareness of our physical being part is one. The self, the intangibles, your feelings, your inspirations, your passions, if those are things that you've stuffed or put away or thought weren't important or other things have taken priority, that can have an effect on this environment. Nature, if you're somebody that really does well with being outside or has a connection to trees and grass and sunshine or snow or wind, all those things that when we tend to get busy in the physical world, we might ignore. And if there's something that really affects you in a positive way, it may be something that you need more of. Spiritual, your divine connection, regardless of the religion that you practice or your belief system, if you're missing that spiritual connection, sometimes that can create a void in this environment. Relationships, if you, like I can say for myself, when I've been in workaholic mode and I ignore my children, I ignore my partner, I haven't called my parents in 3 weeks, those have some negative consequences and can really start to create an environment that isn't really the environment that I want. The network, the people you choose to do business with, the customers that you attract, the customers that you contract, the communities that you're in, the church, schools, any kind of extracurricular work. So your network is all of that put together, and that is an environment of one of these 9s. Your financial network, your own personal bank account, your financial investments, your financial education and awareness. Who do you have in your life to support those? If you've ignored the fact that you need an accountant, that can have a negative impact on your environment. If you've embraced the fact that you might need a tax accountant or an attorney or something like that, that can enhance your financial environment. So that's a couple of examples. I mean, even down to simple software solutions to keep you organized. That's part of your financial environment. And then the physical one, some of you may have heard this idea. If you have a cluttered life, whatever's going on the outside is an indication of what's going on the inside. And I'm going to fly by the seat of my pants, kind of like a little bit of chaos and uncertainty, because then when I control it or I can fix it, I feel powerful. So what I recognize when I need to control something, I tend to clean, and that means everybody scatters. We call it Joe Mama cleaning. The black trash bags come out and everybody scatters. So your physical environment, how are your cars kept, how your bathrooms kept, how your closets organized. And I'm not saying that you need perfection in any of these environments. I'm just giving you some suggestions on areas that we can tend to avoid, which creates blocks and conflicts in our overall well-being. And all of that boils into the mimetic environment. So we just covered 8, mimetic is the 9th. And that's how all of that input affects you as a human being. The radio stations you listen to, the TV that you watch, the magazines that you read, the books that you read, all of those incoming information all filters through these 9 environments. And that's how it affects you. So I would love to hear from the team on how you see these environments being a contribution to living your desired life and making inspired choices, or how examples of blocks in any of these areas could hold you back, or how you might have overcome those in some other situations. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, first, thank you for sharing this. This is such an important part of becoming successful. The first one that comes to mind for me is the physical. And I think this is one a lot of people can relate to. If you're not healthy, or you have an injury, or you've got, you feel like if you lose 5 pounds or 10 pounds or whatever it is, that can impact the rest of everything that you're doing. And this was one of these things that was really key for me. I had Achilles tendonitis, and I had it for 15 years. It was one of these things that just prevented me from doing all the things I like to do, play basketball. And I just kept putting it off because, I had kids, I had a job, I had these kind of things. And then I was in a car accident. And because I hadn't been working out, I was out of work for 10 months. And I'll have to tell you, that impacted a lot of these other environments, my financial environment, my relationship, all these other things. So the idea here is to look at those areas of your life and go, what are those things that you can improve on? And take them, make steps towards cleaning those up. Since that car accident, I have worked very diligently on my diet and on exercise, and I think I've lost 30 pounds at this point. And I hadn't realized that I needed to lose 30 pounds. I was like, really? I'm 30 pounds overweight? I'm like, when did that happen? It's those things kind of sneak up on you. So that's the first one I think that jumps to mind for me, but there are so many that I find very relevant here, but I'll let some of the other people share on this one.
Joyce?
So I actually have two. One for me is I know when I'm feeling out of sync. You talked a little bit about the music, and for me, if I'm feeling kind of like music can change my mood and change my inner core in a matter of seconds. I live through music. So if I'm feeling down, if I'm feeling stressed, sometimes I just need to get up and dance it out, and I'll crank the music up on high, and anybody looking in from the outside into my house would think that I'm having some kind of a fit, but I just dance it out. And it just takes a matter of a couple of minutes for me to change my mood and that changes my day. That's one big one for me. And then the other one that's a big one, I actually had this, I went through a really chaotic couple of weeks. I was out of town for a couple of weeks. I came home and I had to hit the ground running. I had my suitcase on the floor still. I was just throwing dishes into the sink, which is really not me because I like a clean kitchen before I go to bed. And it was a couple of days, and everything just felt like I was in chaos. And I just stopped and I looked around my house, and my house was chaos. And I went, oh, okay. What was happening on the inside just exploded on the outside for 2 days, and I didn't even realize it because I just kept going. And so I took a breath. I cleaned everything up, and wouldn't you know it, I got my house back in order, and my life kind of feels a little bit more in balance. So those are just two quick examples for me.
You're absolutely right. Sometimes it takes the physical manifestation of those things to recognize where they are and getting back to whatever normal is for you. So, Matt, how about you?
I've got nothing. No, it seems like we're all on the same page because I've definitely had the body and health thing, like Chris says. It's amazing, like when I'm working out and I'm taking time to do that, how much better I feel and how that just helps everything. And the clutter too. It's like I have a garage that was just a mess when we moved in, and we just left it. It was one of those things. And I'd like to use the garage instead of going through the front door. When we come home, there's just less keys involved and all that. And every time I'd walk through, I'm like, yes, well, I'm cursing at it. I'm like, I don't know why we don't do anything. And then, by the time you walk in the house, what kind of mood was I in? So I definitely can relate to that. And we went out there, and once we took care of that, it's like I had nothing else to bitch about. So yeah, it made a big difference.
So the next question is, where do we start? Because I think all of us can probably think of some area in any of these 9 environments that we can improve. So here's the homework. Let me just run through this list with you real quick so you can write them down. There's physical, relationship. Thank you, Matt. Pace me
You're
out
welcome.
here. Physical body, financial, self. Self is different from physical body. Spiritual, nature, network, and mimetic. So take a second and consider which one of these environments has the most delay or the avoidance. And then the next question, and I'll just use myself as an example. I've mentioned this before. Financial is the thing that makes me the most uncomfortable. What does this tell me? Well, this tells me that I've been avoiding it and that I've probably attached some unnecessary fear or some really big blocks because I've been telling myself that I'm not good at it and that it's not my favorite thing to do. And then I avoided I even try to come up with Money Mondays. So Money Mondays means that's when I pay my bills. That's when I check on my bank accounts, do all the necessary things. And even then I'm like, oh, it's Money Monday. But anyway, so that tells me that I'm really uncomfortable, and it's from a lack of knowledge. So what do I do instead? That's the next question. So pick your environment that's the most challenging or that you've had the most avoidance. What are you doing instead? Well, on Money Mondays, I am super happy to book an appointment on Monday because that means that's less time I have to spend on Money Monday. Eventually, I have to, pay the bills or balance the checkbook. What is my payoff for the delay? Now, that question I can't quite answer, but my payoff for the delay is that I avoid the pain for a moment. But ultimately, what does it cost me? Well, it costs me sometimes a late fee on something because I was avoiding it. It costs me lack of confidence and control over the situations because I avoid them. So now that we've got those 9 things figured out, pick the easiest one on that list, the hardest one.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Yeah, the hardest one, the most important, and the greatest impact of others. So if you're going to narrow down these 9, let's get them down to what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Circle the easiest one. So for me, easiest one is my network. I love the people I'm around. I love the interactions I have with people. It's great. The hardest for me is the financial. The most important is relationship. People, my impact on others. And then the greatest impact on others is probably myself, like my own self-worth, self-value, because that's what I'm bringing to the table with anybody that I'm dealing with. So if you put an asterisk next to the most important, so we put a circle around the easiest one, a box around the hardest one, an asterisk next to the most important, and a circle around the one that has the greatest impact. These are the things that you need to focus on the most and take action in those categories. The easiest being one that's probably the one that rewards you and gets you excited and you spend probably the most amount of time and energy on. Most important is one that if you neglect it, you're going to have some negative consequences. The hardest one, go get some help with. And the one that has the greatest impact on others, just the awareness alone will help you improve yourself in that category, because when you realize that you need to be in a great headspace before you go into a meeting, if you realize that you need to clean out the garage so that the little girls, when you walk in the house, matter going, why is daddy in a bad mood? All he did was go So narrow this 9 to those few and consider where they fall into your life, and you will automatically, even just doing this exercise one time will chip away at some of the blocks that are keeping you from living your best life and making the inspired choices, because really inspired choices aren't always ones that we want to make. Sometimes they're the ones we know have the biggest impact on our lives. Mm-hmm. So use choice as your superpower. Clean up some of these messes and irritations and roadblocks to your success, and we look forward to helping you with the next step.